Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Waves of Healing. We are dedicated to communicate to you and provide you with information of being aware and keep open mind to alternative ways of healing, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. I'm your host, Leah Yekutiel, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm a reconnective healing practitioner, a breast cancer victor, not victim, and the author of the book, Making the Breast of It. In order to learn more about me and my book, please visit my website at www.ilovemybreastcancer.com. All in one word, ilovemybreastcancer.com. And while you are visiting my website, please purchase my book and give a gift of love to somebody you love who went through breast cancer, where they can learn how to reclaim their femininity back, how to rebuild their self-confidence living with breast cancer or no breasts, and how to accept their new image and love it. And they will realize that sexuality exudes from inside out and not from outside in. And the most important thing that they would learn through the many exercises in the book, how to connect with the spiritual aspect of life, where they realize that we women are not only our breasts in order to be functional, viable, sexual beings. And while you are visiting my website, you have the option to print for free 25 breast health tips. And if you apply some of them in your daily life, you'll be surprised how many cancers, how many diseases, or how many breast cancer we can prevent. Because my show is all about prevention, and it's all about healing. Because doctors can diagnose us and many times misdiagnose us, but we have to be vigilant about our health and learn and apply everything that could prevent diseases in our body. And with that said, I would like to tell you who is my guest today, which I am so excited about him. My guest today is Dr. Larry Malerba, the author of the book Metaphysics and Medicine. Many of you, I'm sure, heard about him, and he's been a guest on my radio show once before. But for those who are not that familiar with him, let me just tell you a little bit about him so you'll get a little bit a chance to take a glimpse about his abilities. Well, Larry Malerba, D.O., is a holistic physician whose mission is to build bridges between holistic healing, conventional medicine, and spirituality. He is the author of Green Medicine, challenging the assumptions of conventional healthcare. His new book, Metaphysics and Medicine, Restoring Freedom of Thought to the Art of Science of Healing, examines the role of scientific bias in medicine and how it prevents innovative treatments from reaching the mainstream. Dr. Malerba has written articles for Huffington Post, National News, Reality Sandwich, and American Holistic Medical Association. He is board certified in homeotherapeutics, is clinical assistant, professor at New York Medical College and past president of the Homeopathic Medical Society of the State of New York. He has a private practice in upstate New York. And I just spoke prior to the show with Dr. Malerba, and he just told me that he rushed to his office in the snowstorm that is going on right now in upstate New York in order to be on time to attend my show. So I really appreciate it.
Hi, Leah.
Dr. Malerba, I believe that you have so much to add to the knowledge of my listeners. Are you there?
Hi, Leah. It's great to be with you. It's nice to be on again, and I had to get through that snowstorm just to talk to you, but that's okay. And it's a little bit different than your weather out there.
Yeah, it's been like 80 degrees here today, and I would not like to be in your place today because I would not be able to handle it.
Well,
when
thanks
it's
for
warm,
having
I know how to handle it, but when it's cold, not for me. Well, let's go back to your book and what you are doing. So can you tell us about this new book that you've written? What was your purpose of writing this book? What are you trying to convey in your new book, which is Metaphysics and Medicine?
Sure. Metaphysics and Medicine is, I wrote it in order to help explain why medicine is the way it is and why it tends to create problems and be a flawed system of medicine. So a lot of people understand and realize that medicine has its drawbacks, and there are many side effects and problems and complications in it that can occur through drugs and surgeries and so on and so forth.
Right.
But important to understand why that is, and I think, in my opinion, the science of medicine has gotten overconfident and has failed to question its basic fundamental beliefs about the nature of health, the nature of illness, the nature of healing, and instead it's just preoccupied with its own limited scientific worldview. So in a certain sense, science has decided somewhere along the way that it doesn't need to think about itself anymore. It doesn't need to reflect back upon what it's doing or what its basic beliefs are that inform the scientific enterprise. And that sort of contrasts with many holistic forms of medicine, which are very concerned with the philosophical beliefs, the metaphysical worldview, if you will, that informs their practice, right? And in the end, it makes a big difference how medicine is practiced. And medicine, conventional medicine, doesn't believe it needs philosophy anymore. It believes it's sort of an antiquated thing because science is all about facts, and we're going to concern ourselves with the facts, and that's that, and that's all we need to know. And we need to, look at what we're doing, and that's why I wrote the book, because it examines the underlying beliefs behind medical science, behind science, and compares and contrasts that to the sciences and practices of many different holistic forms of medicine.
Basically, what you're saying, the way I understand it, is that the conventional medicine is concentrating on the physical phenomenon versus just the physical phenomenon versus being more open to the whole person, to the emotional person, to the spiritual aspect of life. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. So you're touching upon one of those unexamined beliefs of conventional medicine, which is that it's basically materialistic, right? So
right.
It assumes the universe to be only a material thing, and even when it approaches subjects like mind and emotions and consciousness and feelings, it thinks in terms of those things, in terms of the brain and the physical, the science, the materialistic science of those things. And it doesn't actually allow for the realm of consciousness and the realm of thought and emotion and mind, body, and how mind affects body. So materialism is one of those kind of what I call isms in the book, these sort of rigid beliefs that medicine refuses to relinquish. You also have, reductionism, which basically the basic belief is that we're going to find the answers and solutions to our problems by looking at small parts of the body,
right.
localized parts. It's the opposite of holism. Reductionism looks at small parts. Holism looks at the whole picture, right?
Right.
Materialism only looks at the physical, whereas most holistic people understand that mind-body is one thing, and you can't exclude mind or consciousness from human health. Another one is mechanism, right? So in order for science, medical science, to believe in anything, it has to be given a mechanistic explanation in terms of physical things. So there's got to be some kind of biological or biochemical or physiological explanation in order for conventional medicine to accept some phenomenon, which, of course, there's no such explanation behind the fact, for example, that last night I dreamt of dogs, or that I feel this way or that way. We can examine our brain chemistry and our brain all we want, and it's not going to reveal the true nature of our thoughts, our feelings, our intuitions, our consciousness, and how those things affect the physical body. And conventional medicine only wants to look at how the physical body affects health, and that's their only
object.
Right, their only object, the only thing that they consider relevant to medicine.
Yeah. Well, how long has it been this situation like this? I mean, for how many years?
Oh, this has been the case for a very long time. It goes back through the history of philosophy and
right.
Descartes and rationalism, where in essence both science and philosophy decided along the way that the only thing that they're going to trust is the logic of the mind and the material existence, and not trust a human experience. And this is sort of the most important theme in my book that I think everyone needs to face, is that science and medical science and medicine have essentially reached a point where they no longer trust human experience, personal experience, subjective experience. So when a patient sits in an examining room with a doctor and tries to tell the doctor, well, doc, this is what happened to me, and this is how I felt, and this is what happened, and then I got in a fight with my spouse, and it was a big argument, and then I felt this pain over here, and so on. they're not interested in the subjective, experiential nature, dimension of your health problem.
Right.
They want to stick to
they
the
don't
numbers.
Have to it because they're so busy in and out for 5 minutes, and that's it.
Right. And they've even developed a term which is sort of a slur word, it's a swear word that denigrates the personal experience of patients, and that's the word anecdotes. So in other words, when someone comes along and tries to say, well, I know that medicine causes that side effect because I took it and I felt this, and they say, well, that's only anecdote. In other words, that's anecdotal. That's only your version, and we can't trust that because that's not real science. And so science is somehow, and medicine has separated itself from humanity, from our own experiences. And this is the crisis of medicine to me. This is why there are so many health problems and so many side effects and so many complications and so many bad choices that medicine makes, because it's not paying attention to its own patients, and it's not looking at the reality of its patients who are trying to communicate, but they can't communicate. They don't communicate in the language of science. They communicate in their own personal experiential language, and it's like two different people trying to talk to each other in different languages, and so they don't understand each other, right? And this is a big problem.
It's like learning geometry or algebra. The science says 2 + 2 is 4, and we take it for a fact. In this case, it's correct, but when it comes to medicine, you are saying that this scientific part does not apply. Am I correct?
Sure. I mean, it's like I can give you the example of even just my own patients. Like, I couldn't practice the form of medicine I practice without listening to the very specific details that my patients report and all the connections between their symptoms and their experiences. And so if someone comes in and tells me about their migraine headaches, certainly I'm interested in understanding the nature of those headaches. What are they like? Where are they located? When do they happen? If you have the headache, what does it feel like? What do you do to try and make it feel better? Do you apply heat? Do you apply cold? Do you lay down? Do you turn off the lights? What aggravates it? And so on. But more importantly, I want to know, okay, when did those headaches start? Oh, they started 2 years ago. And what happened back then? What happened in your life that could potentially have contributed to the development of those headaches?
Right.
Oh, well, I got fired from my job, or I got a divorce, or my grandmother died, or you name it. People can describe all kinds of things, and they know for sure. They'll tell you that's when they started, and I know that's why they started, because of the stress of that experience and the way it hit me, and that's why I got those headaches. Now, conventional medicine has no use for that information, regardless of
right?
What's that?
Unfortunately.
Yes, and regardless of what you tell them preceded those headaches, they're still going to proceed to give you the same painkiller for those headaches. It's not going to make any difference. To me, it would make a big difference.
It's like a Band-Aid. It's numb the symptoms. That's all. It does not cure, or it does not heal the problem from the source, which you are handling it from the source. You go to the core of the reason that it started. And when you go to the core, to the source where it started, then you know how to, holistically, how to get a person into correcting their ways and actually healing themselves. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely, because we understand that mind and body are connected, and in most cases, most physical illness has its origin in some sort of psychic experience, some sort of emotional experience, and the stress of some experience started to slowly affect the system until eventually these migraines happen. So in the case of one person, it may be a matter of they have to deal with their grief over the loss of their grandmother, and we have to find ways to help them with that. For another person, it may be they have to deal with their anger issues because they still feel infuriated that they were fired from that job, right? And so it's very important to see that mind-body connection. And medicine literally has no method by which to make those connections or make use of those connections. And so medicine's missing out on a lot. At most, the best it can do is say, well, go see the psychiatrist, and they'll give you an antidepressant or an anxiety drug, another drug to cover up your symptoms, right?
Yeah. Just to numb it. Larry, if people are interested more to learn more about you and your books and your work, what is your website where they can go and visit?
My website is called SpiritScienceHealing.com. All together, SpiritScienceHealing.com. And I have a lot of information there and articles that I've written and interviews and videos and things that people can
wonderful.
see.
I've been on your mailing list, and I've been getting so much information that it's incredible. And I encourage all the listeners, if you want to learn, help yourself, please go and visit Dr. Malerba's website, which is SpiritScienceHealing.com, all in one word. So you have a lot of, you cover a lot of the difference between holistic medical philosophy and conventional medical philosophy. And can you just overall talk a little bit more about what we just talked, but a little bit more elaborate about this? Also, you say that that there are many many isms of medicine. What do you mean by many isms in medicine?
Mm-hmm. Well, like an ism is sort of a rigid belief, like in the word fundamentalism. And in medicine, there are those isms. There's rationalism, there's reductionism, there's mechanism, there's dualism, there's objectivism, and all of those sort of very rigid beliefs prevent medicine from being open to new ideas and new information, and in essence create a kind of censorship that prevents these new ideas, which sometimes there aren't new ideas, they're ancient ideas, from ever reaching the minds of students and doctors and the people who should be learning these things. And so, in contrast to what I call, authentic science, which should be open to the other half of human existence, which is that personal subjective dimension, right? There's objectivism is one of those things in medicine where they'll only believe or take seriously things that they can objectively see, touch, feel, smell, right? But if the minute you start talking about things that are intangible, things that we can't measure, subjective things like our feelings and things like our emotions and things like our dreams and our spiritual experiences, all of these things, which are very real to most people personally, medicine kind of dismisses because it doesn't fit into their philosophical worldview. And to me, an authentic form of science or an authentic form of medical science would learn how to take those things seriously and investigate them and see how they fit into health care and illness and how they can play a role in healing. So it's important that that experiential aspect of everyday life be understood. It's like that thing where there's a huge controversy over the idea that a vaccine could cause autism, right? And that's the perfect example, because on the one hand, the scientists are saying there's no scientific proof, there's no study, there's no research that says that a vaccine causes autism. On the other hand, you have literally thousands of people who say, well, my child was normal, and he had a vaccine, and within 24, 48 hours, he was acting like he was autistic. So my first-hand personal experience tells me, I know for a fact what happened, and yet science will not believe it. And there are many things like this where science will not accept these connections between events, between their own interventions and the results that they create.
Would you say that there is a little bit more awareness about this issue, that you are one of the pioneers who talks about this, between the holistic healing versus conventional medicine? Would you say that there is a little bit more awareness among the medical industry, and there are some other doctors like you are who are educating the masses?
Certainly, there's definitely more awareness, especially among the general public. They're the ones who are way ahead of the curve, way ahead of the medical system. And there are certainly many regular doctors and healthcare professionals who are aware of these things and making use of alternatives and holistic treatments. But there's a very, entrenched conventional medical system that's very hard to change, very slow to change. And that's the last piece of the puzzle that needs to fall into place. They need to understand that it's not a competition between the two, that it's important that everybody work together for the benefit of patients, and that, conventional medicine has its role.
Is we are not in competition, we should be in cooperation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Conventional medicine has its place, and is certainly important in some things. For example, for emergency medicine and for diagnostics, like medicine's great if you have a problem and you're trying to figure out what it is, and you can use various diagnostic things and lab tests to help figure it out. And then, holistic forms of healing are often the best place to go when you have some kind of chronic illness. Conventional medicine is not very good with dealing with chronic illness. It's best suited to acute illness, emergencies, and so you can.
We have one more minute. Mm-hmm. What would you be? What would be your suggestion for the listeners to do in order to get more involved with holistic healing?
I think it's very important to educate oneself. There are a lot of resources out there. It can be a little overwhelming, but there's a lot of good information out there, and it's important that one overcome one's fear of doing something a little bit different. A lot of people are afraid to step outside of that conventional medical model and search for other ways of healing. But once you overcome that initial fear and start to become familiar with these things, it becomes a lot easier. And once you try them out, you realize that they work, they're effective, they're safe, and it's something that should be used in addition to your use of the conventional medical system.
Wow. Thank you so much, Larry. I really appreciate your time and driving in the snowstorm.
Thank you, Leah. It was very a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on.
And thanks so much again. Unfortunately, our time is out, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Very good. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Thanks, Larry. Bye.